show up the best way possible. So congratulations on making it here this morning, and we're set to have a lovely service. Excuse me, our practitioner this morning is Pat Frommer. Pat will be praying us in and offering a short reading to get us started. And we also have music. We have substitutions in your program. It says Drac is providing the music, but the Jacksons have agreed to step in for him today. And so they are playing for us, and we are allowing or asking for a love offering for them since they are volunteering their time this morning. So that would be one way to show them just how much we adore their music. So welcome, and thank you so much for being here this morning. All right, well, let's get started by getting centered, shall we? I'm going to invite you wherever you are to clear your laps and clear your minds. And if you're comfortable, close your eyes and take that deep breath and let the sound of the bowl take you within. Allow that breathing to enter your heart space, that place within your body that knows a sense of peace and stillness. For it is here in the heart that we remember the truth that you and I and Spirit are one.
And within that place, join with me, knowing that that one true essence of all divinity, all mankind, every single aspect of our divine nature, it is all God. And God is within each and every one of us, is everywhere, for there is nowhere where God is not. And knowing all this, I know that that God essence within me is the same God essence within each and every one of you that is present, and all of those who are not, and everything around us. And knowing this, I bless this message, I bless this gathering, and each and every person here, knowing that they are here by divine appointment, and it is all good and very good. And if you will join me in this, in gratitude, join me in repeating, and so it is. Thank you. I have a reading from one of my favorite books, The Essential Ernest Holmes, which, if I'm not mistaken, I think we're doing a class on it. So I decided this would be a good thing to pull, as long as I have the right page, and I think I do.
I'm not the only one.
Very easy to do. I even had a little marker, and for whatever reason, there it is. I doubled up the page. It must want me to read something about the mystics rather than what I chose to, because it keeps changing. So, that's right. Okay. Now I got it. Can you imagine a power so great that it is both infinite presence and an unlimitless law? If you can, you are drawing close to a better idea of way that life works. Most of the Bibles of the world have said that all things are formed by its word. This word is called the secret word, or the lost word. It is said that some of the ancients had a holy scroll upon which was inscribed the sacred and secret name of life. This scroll was supposed to have put in the ark, in the chest, and laid away in a place called the Holy of Holies, the innermost room of the temple in Jerusalem. Now, what do you suppose was inscribed on this sacred scroll. Just this, these simple words: I am. Here is the concept of the pure, the simple, a direct affirmation of life, making everything out of itself. That is why the most important scriptures have all stated that all things were made by the Word of God. Thank you.
Good morning. How wonderful it is to see all of you. Well, we do have a couple of new songs to share with you this morning, but first, we have a very important birthday to acknowledge and celebrate. We would like to ask you all to join us in singing happy birthday to our wonderful Emily.
Hi, Emily. Happy
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Emily. Happy birthday to you. We love you. Okay, this first song that we have, it's its first time out. It's called You Are the Reason.
There it is. I knew it was here. It's hard. I can't. Well, I won't go into it. I won't go in. But here we are.
It's all good. You are the reason that I feel so deeply that I want to hold you right here in my arms, and every smile that our future will give me. You bring the sunshine and 10 times the love. And I want to tell you just how much your love means. When your heart is open, it spreads through the world. And I hope you know that I am so grateful that you are the love so deep in my heart. I'm moved by your passion,
Moved by your passion,
inspired by your faith,
inspired by your faith,
roads that you travel,
roads that you travel,
changes you've made,
changes you made,
your strength and endurance,
strength and endurance,
love that you give,
love that you give,
vision that guides you,
vision that guides you,
beauty within.
your beauty within.
I want to tell you just how much your love means. When your heart is open,
It spreads through the world.
I hope you know that I am so grateful that you are the love
So deep in my heart.
feel so deeply that I wanna hold you right here in my arms. Thank you.
That was just delightful. All right, so let's light our candle. So we're lighting our candle this morning for Black History Month, and specifically for the word community. Maya Angelou has a great line. She says, "We must learn to look beyond complexion and see our community." And isn't that what we teach? That beyond appearances, there is a unifying energy of life that we all are. And so we celebrate that today. I'm going to share the podium this morning with one of our members who's going to do a presentation just about this very topic. So I'd like to invite up Jan Collins-Eaglin, your board president. You need a microphone, so don't even think you're standing down there. Do you need to hold one, or can you want?
Can I hold one?
Sure. Yeah, watch that step.
Okay.
Well, is this on my Ed? Yep. Looking for a light.
There it is.
Got a light. Give it a second to stop flashing. There you go.
Good,
You're good.
So I first of all, thank you for the privilege and the honor to do this. And I'm taking deep breaths. I would like to invite whoever would like to move forward, because the school teacher in me never dies. And so if you'd like to move forward and see the pictures a little closer, I want you to get up and just move forward out of your seats that you usually sit in, because I'm one of you. I have my row that I like to sit in, but Shelley here says, come on up front. And then my sister and Reggie are here, and she says, oh, our front row pew is expanding. So if you'd like to expand with us and look at some pictures as I do this, please join us. We won't bite, honest. And I won't call on you, ever. All right. Okay. So I want to start with a quote from Harriet Tubman. And the quote is, "Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the passion, and the patience to reach for the stars to change the world." And just if, in case you don't know who Harriet Tubman is, she was called the Black Moses, and she led slaves out of slavery to first Pennsylvania and New York, and then when the fugitive slave law came into effect, led people to Canada. I happen to have moved here from Michigan, where a lot of those descendants lived in Canada right over the bridge, and lived in our town in Michigan. So that's just a little side note. So I'm going to start with a poem, and this is one of my favorite poems, and it's an old poem, but it speaks to where we are. It's called "The Negro Speaks of Rivers" by Langston Hughes. I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when the dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo, and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans. and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. And I purposely chose that poem because some of you will know I went to Ghana in December, and I didn't know what I was going to see, but they took us on a slave tour, and it started at the Slave River. And it was the river where they brought the Africans from many different tribes, many different countries. They marched them, forced them to bathe in the deep river, and then marched them to the dungeons to be sent to the New World. So the New World was the Caribbean, South America, and North America. So all along South America, North America, Central America, that's where my ancestors landed. And so I'm going to put on this, it's a kente cloth. And we were given a kente cloth and given an African name. And so I'm going to put this on as the beginning of the talk. And this name is Afia Adoma. And that means abundant grace. And I was so honored. How about that? One of the things I learned that Reverend Tracy just said is when going to look, and if you'd like to look through this book, you can later. But going through this experience in Ghana, they took us to the slave dungeons, and I've never seen anything as horrific and as inhumane in my wildest imagination. And so these were dungeons, these were dark, there were no lights. They had slits for the women for air, for the men nothing. And after you go through these many dungeons, and we went to a number of these dungeons, not just one, the tour guide said, if you leave with nothing else, just know that the spirit of our ancestors never die. And that struck me. And one of the members of our group said, well, they told us how decimated, no clothes, couldn't speak your language, you were beaten. I mean, it was horrible. And the guide said, he was actually a lecturer, he said, you need to understand, when people went to the Middle Passage and were put on those boats, many of them weren't even conscious. They were just half dead coming. And we believe that our ancestors' spirit brought them through. And I that really stuck with me. So I'm going to tell you a little bit, even though there are a lot of pictures there, I'm not going to be up here the whole time, of the spirit that went through. So all of us are mysteries with histories. None of us in this room are a single story. We have all so many stories behind us. And the issue with Black History Month is America, let's just face it, I'm going to be honest, has squelched our stories. And yet says for a month you can talk about it. But in Florida, Texas, and states now, they're saying, no, but you really can't. But, well, I'm not going to go there. I went there. Anyway, but I'm going to tell you a story of our family, my sister and I's family. it's not a unique story. It's a story of striving, of that spirit staying alive and moving people forward. And so I'm going to start here with my father, and in the background you hear his music. But the reason I'm starting here is this is a little quilt I'm working on that I'm going to submit to a folklorist. A friend of mine said, "Oh, you gotta submit it." I said, "Oh, well, I don't know." But anyway, it's the story of my great-grandmother, my father's grandmother. My great-grandmother was born into slavery, but we didn't know her last name until Ancestry, and I was just determined to find her last name. So we know that she was a slave in Macon, Georgia, but what my father would tell the story is that she had Civil War money, and when Sherman marched through the South and Atlanta to free the slaves, she was freed. She opened a music school. So if we go back, somehow she learned. In 1870 census, she was listed as a church organist and music teacher. Now, she didn't learn all that in 5 years. So somehow she had the skills and the knowledge. And it was hidden, couldn't be, publicized until the Civil War was over. But she was part of the Great Migration. And she migrated from Montgomery, Alabama. I found the marriage certificate. So she went from Montgomery, Alabama. This is my grandmother now, not my great-grandmother, to Chicago. And when she got to Chicago, she formed a jazz band. She was a feisty lady. And she had a little jazz band. I actually, someplace in my house, I really looked for it, but I know I have it someplace, is a recording of her on Black Swan Records in 1930-something. She died in 1936, very young. The same year that she died, my great-grandmother, who I don't have a picture of, I've never seen her face, but she died that same year, too. They both died that same year. And with the death of both of them, a lot of family stories were lost. And a lot of the family history was lost because of a lot of trauma. But now with all these sites and genealogy, we're beginning to unearth that. And then she taught my father to play guitar. And he played in her jazz band. And then he went on to play, so my grandmother played with W.C. Handy, and she was a demonstration pianist, but she taught my father to play guitar, and he went on to play with jazz greats like Dizzy Gillespie and Fletcher Henderson, and then he played with Nat King Cole till he died, and then he went on and had his own little trios. So that's that. So now I'm going to go to my mother. And I want you to know that I wouldn't consider my family heroes. There's unsung heroes, like I would say most of us are. And most of our families are. We're strivers, striving to do best and to be best and be the best people we can be. So my mother's background is really complicated because on the one side, her great-grandfather was a bar pilot. And a bar pilot, he had a boat, and they're from the islands in South Carolina. And he would bring the boats in to Safe Harbor. Now, his family came from Scotland. My mother's maiden name is Fraser, Fraser. So this is what my mother would say. One brother married a light-skinned woman, my Mama Lily, and the other brother married a white woman. In Georgetown, it was a very interesting little town, South Carolina, because they didn't have segregation of housing. So you had big houses and little houses, and big houses and little houses, and it's still like that. You can see in the older part. So she said, well, we would regularly beat them up on our way to school because there were 13 in her family. But my mother's story is, this is my great-grandmother, who we called my grandmother, Mama Lily. She was a church organist also, and she played the organ for the church for 75 years, a pipe organ. And her name is inscribed in this little church on the side in Georgetown, South Carolina. But that's my mother's grandmother. My mother's mother, this sweet little lady here, right? They went on a church picnic, and on the way back, there were drawbridges. In 1931, drawbridges. So the man who was supposed to lock the bridge was drinking that night, didn't lock the bridge, and both of the buses drowned in the river. And from this article, it says this was the greatest tragedy in South Carolina at that time. So my mother, on the other side of this article, says she missed the bus. She decided she didn't want to go on a church picnic with her parents. She wanted to stay and play with her neighbor who lived next door, Grace, and her grandmother. So she missed the bus. So my great-grandmother adopted her, and she became the 13th out of 12 children. And my great-grandmother was a single mother because her husband, the bar pilot, died from pneumonia, but she raised those children being a country, and I mean country, school teacher and playing the organ. And so, again, it's a story of families surviving. But in her family, I have an uncle that eventually became a college president, and most of the children went to college. And they helped each other. They paid for each other to go. And so I'm going to move now and end with my husband's family. Now, my husband's family is an interesting family also. My father-in-law, his name is obviously Eaglin, Simon Eaglin. And I don't know if you have heard of Georgetown University giving reparations to families that they sold to Louisiana in order to fund to build the university. Well, his family was one of those families. And so we have now listed the Eaglins. So his ancestors were part of that. He came from a poor farming family, and in the same little town where they were sold in Opelousas, Louisiana. And but again, it's a story behind a story behind a story. And then my mother-in-law is half Creek, I think, I'm sure, and half black. And so she grew up in a little town called Sapulpa, Oklahoma. And she talked about going to stomp dances where they would have powwows. Now my mother, this is the last little picture here. This is her grandmother, and her name is Rebecca. And Rebecca was a Cherokee Indian. And there's a long history of Indian tribes taking in slaves. to protect them. And her husband, my grandfather, I didn't bring his picture, I should have. He was a slave. He was a former slave. And so my mother remembers going to powwows, but they would have to go out into the country because they were illegal. And she would go to the villages and whatever with her grandmother. And so this is just a snapshot of Black history that I would say every African descended person has a history. And that history is rich. It is always complicated. Half the time we don't know it because we can't go back to 17th century and whatever. We can't because we were just ciphers, just marks on a piece of paper until 1870, where you started putting in names. But every family has this wonderful, rich history. And, I would encourage you just to be curious, because that's the theme this month, to be curious. I am very curious about my family, so I'm always looking at genealogy and seeing what I can find. I get a hint. I want to look at the hint, and I'm finding so much. For example, for my mother's family, I finally, in our family story, there was always about somebody from Jamaica. I actually found that person that came from Jamaica to South Carolina and found their names. It was interesting. So we have all this history. We have these stories of regular people living regular lives, but make up what it is the rich contribution. And I know the United States was built on the backs, literally. And there's nothing that is not touched of Black people. I'm going to stop because I'm going to be the school teacher. But to go to Monticello, where Thomas Jefferson is a fascinating tour, because they have now started incorporating Black history into the tour. It's the same with you go to Philadelphia. Before you even get into the Liberty Bell, they show you the row of houses where all of the Africans lived that supported George Washington. It's fascinating. Go to Williamsburg, it's the exact same story. So there's a book called The 619 Project. It's heavy duty, but it really does talk about the very first boat. There were African slaves on that boat. And how we've been here from the beginning also. So that's my moment of Black history. And I thank you for listening, and I hope you've learned something, and I hope that you'll continue to be curious and to appreciate your families, the struggles that they have just to be regular people, make a difference. And it's the same who we are, regular people making a difference, but we make a big difference. So thank you.
One more time, that was just absolutely amazing. Thank you. A lot of that, for me, comes under the heading of I don't know what I don't know. Right? I mean, I don't know the Native American and Black cultures, that relationship existed. I have Native American in my family history, but I never knew that, never heard that. So thank you for that, and for popping up just for us to do that. So I have a different story to tell you this morning. It's the story of stone soup. And some of you may have heard this story. But we're talking about community. We're talking about community coming together. We're talking about what it is that makes a community. We're having our annual meeting after service today that is all about how we support and inspire each other within this community. So this story is very apropos. Many years ago, 3 soldiers, hungry and weary of battle, came upon a small village. The villagers, suffering a meager harvest and many years of war, quickly hid what they had to eat and met the 3 at the village square, wringing their hands and bemoaning the lack of food. The soldiers spoke quietly amongst themselves, and the first soldier then turned to the village elders. "Your tired fields have left you nothing to share, so we will share a little of what we have, how to make soup from stones." Naturally, the villagers were intrigued, and soon a fire was put to the town's greatest kettle as the soldiers dropped in 3 smooth stones. "Now this will be a fine soup," said the second soldier, "but a pinch of salt and some parsley would make it wonderful." Up jumped a villager, crying, "What luck! I've just remembered where some's been left." And off she ran, returning with an apron full of parsley and a turnip. As the kettle boiled on, the memory of the village improved, and soon barley, carrots, beef, and cream had found their way into the great pot. And a cask of wine was rolled into the square, and all sat down to feast. They ate and danced and sang well into the night, refreshed by the feast and their newfound friends. In the morning, the 3 soldiers awoke to find the entire village standing before them. At their feet lay a satchel of the village's best breads and cheeses. "You have given us the greatest of gifts, the secret of how to make soup from stones," said an elder, "and we shall never forget." And the third soldier turned to the crowd and said, "There is no secret, but this is certain. It is only by sharing that we may make a feast." And off the soldiers wandered down the road. We all hunger in some way. We sometimes think that we have too little, feeling only scarcity in our lives. We forget that we are not alone, that there is a vast reservoir of life, of substance. We have all the ingredients to contribute, each of us something to contribute. In living our lives and recreating the facets of our experience, we can all contribute. In this spiritual community, we all add the love, the humor, the insights, wisdom, creativity, passion. We each put our ingredients into the soup, and all are fed, nourished. We all have arms to wrap around each other. Community comes from the innate desire that we all have to belong. We all seek connection. We all want to belong somewhere, to someone, to something. And so we find companions along the way. And the word companion means bread fellows. Not bedfellows, bread fellows. When we come together, we nourish and sustain each other. We feed our lives and grow from that nourishment. We're filled up in community with companions, in connection with each other. The word community, together in unity. Not the same, not the teenager's idea of I have to fit in, therefore I must dress like all my other crazy girlfriends, but to be moving in the same direction. Uniquely as we are, yet moving in the same direction, having a common focus, having a common set of values. Moving. To move is to participate, to be engaged. And isn't that what this community is? It's an opportunity to be engaged with like-minded people. And whether we're learning or we're serving or we're sharing or we're simply having fun, we're all moving in the same direction. Together, uniquely ourselves. And you have a choice in community. You can stand by and look at the pot and the fire and everybody else over there, or you can throw something in. You can participate. You can partake and impart. In other words, you are part of the greater whole. And it's really easy to forget that we are part of something else when we are only in our own little space, doing our own little things with the same people, the same places, the same ideas. Our world gets really small. But the truth is we are part of something so much bigger. You know, we are one of 500 centers for spiritual living. All different sizes, all over the world. But we forget that. We are one aspect, one expression of humanity. Billions of people. Billions of people. We're part of all of that. We're part of the ecosystem of this planet. So it matters what we do, what we don't do, what we use, what we waste. We are all part of this world. And so when we come together by choice into community, when we come into spiritual community, we're invited to take part. We're invited to commit. Now, the word commitment usually sends people running for the hills because I think the connotation of commitment is to be overcommitted, right? I cannot commit to one more thing, meaning I've got too much to do already, right? But we're not talking about overcommitting. We're talking about keeping something in focus, keeping something within our line of sight. When we're committed to a project, that project is what pulls us forward. When we're committed to a person, that relationship is what inspires us to communicate, to connect, to be present. So when we talk about making a commitment to community, we're talking about keeping it in our line of sights that we are part of something greater, and therefore we are contributing as well as benefiting. And that way, it becomes a two-way street. And when we don't have anything to contribute, we are carried. And when we do, we support each other. And from all of this, we continue to grow, to deepen, to expand our vision, our experience of life into something greater. So what is it we're committed to? We're committed to our principles, our teaching, right? How we choose to look at life, how we make it work for ourselves, how we understand how it works. We're committed to our practice, which means we don't just talk about all these cool things, we go out and do stuff. And we speak differently. And we act differently. And we choose kindness. And we walk away from toxic relationships. And we bless people on their journey even when it is not our own. We're committed to our practice. We're committed to financially supporting this community that we love. You know, our contributing to the building fund or making a donation into the general fund or dropping a check in on Sunday is like tending the fire or stirring the cauldron, making stone soup. That is the way, that is what we add in so that we might do the things that we love to do, so that we might invite others in and be of assistance to them. We're committed to be engaged and to enjoy. We come here to have fun. We come here to see our friends. We come here to share a meal. We come here to listen to music. We come here to plan a party. We come here to learn something that deepens and fills our soul. We come here to love each other and to be loved. We're committed to this community. And so we care for it. We've created a space for stone soup to happen. We've created a space for people to come together and find that love, to find that love within themselves, to make that connection with their own heart, as well as with others, with the world, with spirit. And it takes all of these ingredients, everyone's contribution. So are they magic stones? No, they're not magic. They're just hearts and hands that make this our favorite recipe. So let's go eat. Namaste. We have to finish the service, then we'll go eat, I promise. All right, let's take a moment in prayer, shall we? Taking a deep breath. And beginning with the words of Desmond Tutu, my humanity is bound up in yours, for we can only be human together. And the truth is that as well as being human together, we are also of the divine. That our spiritual nature is the underlying truth of all that we are, all that we become, all that we express. And because we are divine, we carry within us the characteristics of the Most High: beauty and joy, wisdom, peace, love, and all expressions of these things. My life is a life of God. It is the life of the allness of life. It is the expression of the oneness that we are. And as it is true for me, it is true for all. That together we are this expression that is the living Spirit. And as each in our humanity express uniquely who we are to be in this world, we are always bringing that divine nature into form, reaching out a hand in kindness and calling it love, offering assistance to a neighbor and calling it compassion, pausing to see the sunrise or the sunset and knowing that it is beauty, resonating with what is around us because of what is within us. And so for these things and so much more, I am grateful. Grateful for the ability to see not only with my human eyes, but with my spiritual knowing. Grateful to see and recognize the light everywhere I look, for it is truly the light of understanding, the light, of life, of joy. And it is truly everywhere present. And in this light, in this gratitude, I simply release my word into the one mind, that consciousness of allness, which brings all things into form, which carries and cradles each of us, which knows us, and which allows us to be known. It is all good, for it is all God, and so it is. All right, let's say our affirmation, which you will find in your program. That is the wrong week. I've got it. Here we go. Repeat after me, please. In this community, I recognize one love, many hearts. In this community, I recognize one love, many hearts. I see beyond differences and find myself at home. I see beyond differences and find myself at home. And so it is. All right, let's have another song, shall we?
Amazing. What an amazing day. We're going to... I wrote a song this week, kind of a up kind of a thing. I used using a boogie rhythm that I learned a long time ago, and hopefully it'll send us dancing out out the door. We can't dance like Ed and Susie, and I can't sing like Brother Ray, but I can tell you all the story that might help us dance our blues away. Your blues away. And I'm so thankful for the life that I've been given, for the gifts that I have found along the way. And when I see your wondrous smile, I'm so grateful, 'cause your spirit lives the world every day, every day. Well, I'm so filled with all the wonders that I've seen in this life. I'm so amazed with nature's beauty. There's so much love, it makes me high. Yeah, it makes me high. And I'm so thankful for the life that I've been given, for the gifts that I have found along the way. When I see your wondrous smile, I'm so grateful. Your spirit lifts the world every day, yeah, in every way. We can't dance like Ed and Susie, and I can't sing like Brother Rick, but we can tell you all the stories that might help you dance your blues away, dance your blues away. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is just fabulous. Again, we have. Yeah, right. Exactly, exactly. All right, so give me 1 second here. I had to go look for my digital copy of our invitations. It's funny how we get so used to our routines and how things work. And then when someone isn't able to do something that's normally right here on the podium, you go, oh, okay, regroup, here we go. Wing it. Where is it? I just had it. Okay. All right, so what I'm grateful for are contributions. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to say our prosperity affirmation with us, if you would be so kind. You'll find it in your program. And whether you are donating today, thank you, or you are simply here with intention to love and support your community, placing your hand over your heart, say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. Thank you all. All right, so here it is on paper. So much easier to read. Besides, you don't really want to see your minister up here on her phone. You got to kind of wonder what she's doing, right? Yes, okay. Well, I don't know that I need to tell you, but I'll tell you again anyway. Our annual meeting is right after this service, so we're going to go over to Holmes Hall. We have lunch. We're going to hang out there for a while and talk, and then we're going to come back in here for the meeting, and your board will give you an update on the State of the Union, so to speak. We'll talk about our vision for the future. We'll elect a board member or two and answer any questions and have a lively discussion, and then your minister will go home and take a nap. But before then, there's all kinds of things to get done. So know that you're welcome to stay. We have a Zoom link for the meeting, so if you would like to attend, it was in the e-blast this week. If you need it, text one of your friends here and we'll get it sent to you so that you can join us after service. This Wednesday in Gateway is Interfaith Night, so we have a guest speaker, and it is Joseph Santosh from Our Lady of the Assumption Catholic Church talking about the Catholic Church in 2023. In the Interfaith Council meeting last month, I forget exactly how it came up, but we were talking about how we have a picture of what our old faith path looks like, right? So if you are or were raised Catholic and you left the Catholic Church, I don't know, 30 years ago, guess what? It's probably changed since then, right? But you have a picture in your head. I have a picture in my head as a kid going with my girlfriend who was Catholic. I'd go with her to Sunday service just to keep her company and because what else are you going to do? So we would go to service. You know, those nuns scared me. My whole picture of Catholicism was nuns in the choir up in the loft where she liked to sit, and then she'd leave me and go to communion, and she'd leave me with those people. You know, that's really not a healthy perspective to have on an entire rich faith tradition. So I'm just offering that you might want to come hear this nice man speak and have him talk to us about what the Catholic faith looks like, what its practice looks like, how its beliefs are shaped by the world that we live in now. So that is at 7 o'clock at Gateway on Wednesday night here in the chapel. And of course, as always, we have meditation just before in the foyer right outside here with Nisa. We are offering participation in an interfaith prayer vigil for the earthquake victims of Turkey and Syria Thursday night, the 23rd at 6 p.m. at the Claremont School of Theology. So there'll be a gathering there to offer prayer. We're asking people to bring candles, bring your prayers, whatever form you pray in. There'll be an opportunity to share space and intention for peace, intention for healing, intention for love. In addition to that, the Turkish embassy is collecting clothing, primarily clothing, to support earthquake victims. And if you bring them here, we will take them to Unity, and Unity is taking them to the embassy so that they will actually get directly to the people in the country. So if you have clothing, bedding, tents, sleeping bags, anything like that that might help folks that have been displaced, you can bring them here and we will get them to the Turkish embassy to get to the people. Okay. You can, probably the easiest is to bring them on Wednesday or Sunday when we're all here. If you want to bring them during the week, if you come in the mornings before 10 o'clock, Bobby is always here, and you can drop them off with him. We'll just put them in the foyer next to our food gathering, and then we'll make sure they get to the right place. Warm stuff, yes. Yeah. It's got to be the warm things, right? All right. Thursdays, beginning this Thursday morning, our foundations class starts. So if you signed up, yes, no?
We're bumping it a week because of
the conference. Okay. All right, so redo. Let's start that one over again. Next Thursday, a week from Thursday, we'll begin our foundations class, which is an introduction to the principles of science of mind that we talk about here, but this is a deep dive into what we believe and why. And it's a great way not only to get to know the philosophy, but to get to know a few people in the congregation as you go through class together. I have lifelong friends from my original foundation class. So I encourage you to, if you haven't already, sign up or talk to Reverend Mary. We will start We will start our Essential Earnest class in March. I am contacting the people that have signed up so far. We just need to solidify the date and time. I gave everybody options, so we'll make sure we get that so the most people can attend. Excuse me. Nisa, our practitioner, is beginning a focused awareness meditation class. This is a 5-week course that begins next Sunday after service. It starts on the 26th. There's a workbook, there's materials. It's 15, 75, 50, 80. She couldn't do the math for me. 80, 90. $90 for the 5 weeks. It covers materials and the workbook. Nisa is certified in like 854 kinds of meditation and healing, and it's going to be a lovely class. There is a flyer out front, and I encourage you to check it out to see. Just in reading the flyer, it's like, oh, that would be good for me. Oh, that would be good for me. So even if you already have a practice, I guarantee you'll get something from this class. So that'll be Sundays for 5 weeks, beginning on the 26th, which is next Sunday. Okay? All right. And we did that. Oh, yes, and we're just reminding you to save the date, April 15th, which is a Saturday, which means it's not tax day, because that means your taxes are due on the Monday after. We're going to have a party instead, and oh, by the way, it's called Starry, Starry Night, as in knights in shining armor. This is my scepter, or my sword, or whatever it is they stand there with. I don't have an armor suit, but I probably could find a velvet dress somewhere. If you want to wear a costume, you are encouraged to. I happen to know that a few people here went to some crazy wedding where everybody was all dressed up, so I know they've got costumes. So you can also just come as you are. It would be fine. But there will be raffles and auctions and food and dancing. It is a dinner dance. Tickets are $40, $45. They're $80 for a couple. See, you just have to go with somebody. You save some money, right? It's going to be really fun. It's been a long time since we've been able to have a party like that. So I encourage you to save the date. Talk to Mary or Chris or Jerry about tickets, and I'm sure they've got all the details because I don't, obviously, but I'm going to be there. Who are you pointing at? Mickey. Mickey knows all about tickets. See? Okay. We want to invite you to donate flowers. You see how bare it is up here? Oh, it's so sad. For $40, you can let the office know on the sign-up sheet in the front that you want to contribute flowers for the week. The florist brings them here. We set them out on Sunday. After service, you take them home. Isn't that a good deal? And we all get to benefit. So think about that. We can always have pretty flowers up front with your help. Okay. Did that. I think. Is that it? Did we do it? What is that, Susie? We did that. Divine love? Yeah. You missed it. We're already prosperous. Thank you very much. Okay, so we went a little bit long today, so I'm going to invite you to, we'll stand up, we'll hear our song, we'll go over, get something to eat, and then we'll come back here for our meeting. Thank you all. Let's move out and start rocking.
Take a look at the person next to you and say, God loves you and I love you too. Now feel the love in the sanctuary. Lift your voice and repeat after me.